Namaskar friends. When Maharaja Ranjit Singh crossed the Indus and captured Peshawar, the Durrani winter capital, and its surroundings in 1823 from the Afghans, little did he realize that he was to forever change the course of history of the region. The British inherited Ranjit Singh's empire, and Pakistan in turn inherited the British possessions in 1947. The stage was set for the events that had and continue to have a fundamental impact on Afghanistan, Pakistan and the region. So today, I will discuss Pakistan's insecurity about its inherited Pashtun possessions and the strategies it has adopted to address them. I am Tilak Devasher and you are watching The Great Game Reloaded. Pakistan and Afghanistan did not get off to a good start in 1947. Why? Because Afghanistan was the only country that opposed Pakistan's membership to the United Nations on 30th September 1947 on the grounds that treaties with Britain lapsed when a new state, Pakistan, was created. Though they relented later, for Afghanistan, the British-era Durrani line that demarcated the border between Afghanistan and British India had ceased to exist. Afghanistan has not reconciled to the loss of what today is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, earlier the Northwest Frontier Province, and the northern part of Balochistan, or almost 20 to 25% of present-day Pakistan. For its part, Pakistan rulers had a disparaging attitude towards the Afghans. For example, Aayub Khan told the visiting US President Eisenhower in December 1959, and I quote, "The Afghans were not Muslims nearly as much as they were opportunists," unquote. Ironically, Afghans had been Muslims for longer than several ethnic groups in Pakistan, yet Aayub Khan felt he could dismiss the Afghans as insufficiently Muslim and as opportunists. A broad sweep of the history of Pak-Afghan relations since 1947 reveals that at its core, Pakistan's policy is dictated by its insecurity vis-à-vis the 1893 Durrani line. Pakistan's policy towards Afghanistan has three objectives. One, not to allow a strong government in Afghanistan as it could try and recover lost Pashtun territories. Two, India must not be allowed any space in Afghanistan to guard against the possibility that it would encourage the revanchist claims of a strong and friendly towards India, Afghanistan. Three, seek strategic depth in Afghanistan since several of Pakistan's population centers were close to the border with India. Hence, geographical space or depth was sought in Afghanistan. All the three objectives could only be met if there was a friendly, preferably dependent, anti-India government in Kabul. In a word, Pakistan has always wanted one thing from Afghanistan: control. This has been an article of faith with the Pakistan security establishment. The Afghans haven't agreed and have had a different view on the issue. But this hasn't prevented Pakistan from trying. The end objective has always been to rule Kabul by proxy. It has done this by following a forward policy in Afghanistan from Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's time, but much more effectively under Ziaul Haq and his successors. The Soviet Union's invasion of Afghanistan in December 1979 was godsend for Ziaul Haq. He knew the United States would have no option but to provide massive assistance to Pakistan to bleed their Cold War rival. For Zia, defeat of the Soviet Union was the tactical immediate objective. His strategic objective was to install a regime in Kabul that would finally put an end to Afghan revanchist claims forever. The turning point in the jihad came with the US supplying Stinger missiles to the Mujahideen in 1986 that neutralized the advantage of Soviet air power. By 1988, the Soviets were ready to quit Afghanistan. The US had achieved its objectives, short-term as it proved in hindsight. For Pakistan, victory proved short-lived because the Mujahideen, the Peshawar 7, as they were called, could not come to an amicable power-sharing agreement. The result was a devastating civil war that ultimately led to the rise of the Taliban. During the Taliban regime from 1996 to 2001, Pakistan came to view Afghanistan as its backyard and felt a sense of security about its Pashtun population. Support to the Taliban became an integral part of its national interest. While the Taliban were well ensconced in Afghanistan, 9/11 changed the course of history. The US air attacks on its strongholds led to the collapse of the Taliban. For 20 years, from 2001 to 2021, Pakistan covertly supported the Taliban to recapture Kabul, and when they did in August 2021, there was rejoicing in Pakistan because Pakistan had bet big on a Taliban victory. The then Prime Minister Imran Khan claimed that the Afghans had broken the shackles of slavery. The reason for the jubilation were obvious, because a Kabul under the Taliban was seen as enhancing Pakistan's security. Such a government would 1. Keep India out, 2. Recognize the Durand Line, and 3. Crush the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Within 6 months, the jubilation started soaring, and Pakistan's policy was torn to shreds. Rather than its objectives being met, Pakistan's security became severely compromised. India is back in Afghanistan at the Taliban's invitation. The Taliban have rejected the Durand Line. They have even torn down fencing. And worst of all, the Taliban have not only declined to act against the TTP, but have provided them sanctuary. They have also facilitated talks between the outfit and Pakistan. Clearly, the euphoria at the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan was premature and unwarranted. Pakistan forgot that the Afghans are first and foremost nationalists and would pursue their own agenda rather than Pakistan's agenda or anyone else's for that matter. And now, instead of having influence in Kabul, Pakistan has open hostility with the Taliban regime it helped install. So what went wrong? Why have relations between the two neighbors nosedived? Why have there been clashes between the Taliban and the Pakistan security forces? The main issue that has bedeviled relations between Pakistan and Afghanistan since the Taliban takeover has been the activities of the TTP. Pakistan obviously did not factor in, rather miscalculated, that the Taliban regime had no incentive to crack down on the TTP. In episode 8, I talked about the TTP, so I won't repeat that, except to say that the group has reorganized and expanded since the Taliban takeover in August 2021. According to the UN, the TTP has over 6,000 fighters. Pakistan's problem is that the TTP's demand to separate the former federally administered tribal areas of FATA from KPK province could mainstream the idea of extending the Taliban's de facto authority beyond the Durand Line and into the Pashtun majority areas of Pakistan. This would be a win-win scenario for both groups. The TTP would increase its political power, while the Taliban would gain strategic leverage over Pakistani state. Islamabad has rejected the TTP's demands, asserting that the only way forward is for the group to lay down arms and become a non-violent political party within the framework of the Pakistani constitution. The government believes that conceding the TTP's demands for Pashtun autonomy would strengthen the group's reputation, allowing it to gain legitimacy, spread propaganda, and increase its status as a power broker. Officials fear that concessions to the Afghan Taliban or the TTP would spark greater violence and undermine Pakistan's internal order, security, and territorial integrity. So how is Pakistan responding? With airstrikes inside Afghanistan. In April 2022, 47 persons were killed. In March 2024, 8 were killed. And in December 2024, 71 alleged militants were killed, while the Taliban claim that 46 people, mostly women and children, were killed. And while Pakistan calls it self-defense, the UN says otherwise. Most victims were women and children. Despite the political and military pressure, the Taliban have repeatedly denied Islamabad's allegations, claiming that the TTP hideouts and bases were inside Pakistan. Pakistan has retaliated in other ways too. In November 2023, Islamabad announced that it would no longer advocate the Taliban's case at the international level and scale down its engagement with Kabul. Pakistan has also placed restrictions on the Afghan transit trade, imposed stringent bank guarantee requirements on Afghan traders for imports, and slapped a 10% duty on imports from its neighbors. It is also expelling 2.3 million Afghans, that include undocumented Afghan refugees and even those with documents, to pressurize the Taliban to act against the TTP. 800,000 were deported in 2023 and the rest are to be done in 2025. Most of those being deported have lived in Pakistan for decades. So much for brotherly Islamic nations. Thus, Pak-Afghan relations are now disturbed to such an extent that fixing them would be very challenging. Far from easing, Pakistan's Afghan dilemma, that is basically a Pashtun dilemma, has become more acute in recent months. Pakistan has a problem with both the Afghan Taliban and the TTP. The concern for Pakistan is that while the Taliban have challenged the Durand Line and hence Pakistan's territorial integrity, the TTP is seeking a reversal of the merger of former FATA and KPK province. Taken together, this potential Pashtun pincer from both sides of the Durand Line could mainstream the idea of a larger Pashtun inhabited area in case Pakistan fails to tackle the issue imaginatively. The grievous miscalculation that Pakistan is making is to envision that a Taliban-controlled Afghanistan will toe its line. If there has been one lesson from Afghan history, it is that no outsider has been able to dominate it for long. This is what the British learnt in the 19th century, the Soviets in the 20th, and the US in the 21st. Pakistan is no different, but it will not stop trying due to its obsessive desire to control and install a weak and dependent government in Kabul. In the process, given the cost that it has borne for its Afghan policy, Pakistan is fast becoming the next victim of this graveyard of empires. Thank you for watching. Do like, share and comment. See you again soon with another topic and another anecdote. Until then, I am Tilak Devasher. Namaskar and Jai Hind.